Hi, thanks for joining today's CAD lesson. In today's exercise, we would be modeling this golf ball. If you would have any comments, questions, concerns, or contributions, you can drop them down in the comment section below. I would respond to them as soon as possible. Let's begin with today's exercise. So I have Autodesk Inventor opened. I'll go ahead and get a worksheet to begin this model. To do that, new app here, or you can type Ctrl+N on your keyboard. This is going to be a part, and we would be working with a metric template. And so under the metric template, under the template, you will pick the standard MMIPT sheet template and create. We would begin by drawing half of this golf ball. And so let's draw the 2D profile we would be revolving to get half of the golf ball, which is a quadrant. And so for that, we pick the 2D sketch command and we want to create the sketch on the XY plane. And so I would select that. Now to draw the quadrant, we would use under the arc, pick the center point arc. And so this third one, if you don't know what to do, I always tell you, just look at the left bottom corner here. I will tell you what to do next. So it says we should select the center of this arc we want to draw. We want the center to be at the origin, and so I'll click there. The next thing to do, it's saying down here we should select the start point of the arc. So I'm going to pick a point on the x-axis, which is going to be this horizontal line. Just click to pick the start of that arc, and then you can turn your mouse around to also pick the end point, which is going to be along the y-axis or on this vertical line. And so just click again. You can then right click and OK to get off the arc command. Next, we'll pick the line command and connect the end points of this arc to the origin. We'll also connect the origin to the start of that arc. And dimension, the radius of this arc is going to be 21.5. Let's enter. Now we can finish this sketch because we are ready to revolve. To revolve, you need the 2D profile and an axis of revolution. This can be our axis of revolution, and this entire sketch we've done here will be our profile. And so we can choose the revolve command. The profile has been automatically selected. Next thing to select is the axis, which we are going to use this line like I mentioned, and so I'll click on that. Straight away we see the preview for the direction under the behavior. In order to move in the anti-clockwise direction, you can choose flipped, but the default, which is the clockwise direction, is fine for us for the revolution. And here we have angle. This is how much of the revolution we want. And so let's see, if we change this to 60, we get 60 revolution, 60 degrees revolution, but we want 360, and so I'll change that here so we get a full revolution. That is it, the preview looks fine, we can OK. Next, we want to create the first dimple on this half golf ball we've created. For that, we would pick the XY plane, and so drop down the origin, pick the XY plane, and here select create sketch. We want to create that dimple here at the top this way. We don't see the plane, and so let's choose the slice graphics option so we can see the plane. Here we can begin to create our sketch. Like we mentioned, we are going to create a little dimple here. So we would create the 2D profile for that revolution. Let's pick the line command first. We want to draw a line from this point here downwards. Let's do a distance of 1.25 and enter that. Let's right click and OK first, and make sure that this line we've drawn here is horizontal. So we'll select that line and choose the horizontal constraint command up here. That line is vertical already. Okay, so we will cancel that and make horizontal the midpoint of that line rather, and this top point here that will constrain the line. We'll pick the line command again. We can use the line command to draw an arc. How you do it is to hold down the left mouse button from the point where you want to draw the arc. So this is the point I want to draw my arc. I'll hold down the left mouse button and I'm going to drag. I want to connect this arc I am drawing to this arc here, which is projected, this projected geometry but it's difficult to connect that. If you connect, you get a weird profile. So let me drop this here. You can right click OK and rather make coincident this point and this arc. There we have it. Now we can dimension the distance between this point here and this point as 2.25. That would fully constrain the sketch. We are ready to revolve. This can be our profile. We'll use this line as our axis of revolution. And so we would finish this. Now we pick the revolve command. The profile has been selected. If we zoom in, we get to see that it has been selected here. The axis of revolution is going to be this line, but the output of that, we want the output boolean to be a cut, not a join. And so I'll choose the cut command here. There we have the preview. It is exactly what we want, and so we would OK. So let's see it. There we have it, nicely done. Okay, next we want to create the next set of dimples. And so the next one is going to be at an angle of 15 degrees to this first one, and that is going to be circular patterned around, so we get 6 instances. The next dimple again is going to be at an angle of 30 degrees to the first one, and would also circular pattern that. I think about 12 of them around that circular axis. Let me even go back into the sketch so I can explain better what we want to do next. This was our first profile we revolved. What we want to do is to place the next dimple here, which will be at an angle of 15 degrees to the first one we have placed here. The next one again, which is the third dimple, is going to be placed at an angle of 30 degrees to the first one. The next one again at an angle of 45. We'll do 60, 75, and then finally 90 here. We'll then circular pattern them individually so we can get all the dimples we have on half of the golf ball. Let me finish this and continue. We'll get a clearer picture of that as we go on. So what we want to do next is to create a circular pattern. We would pick that command here. It is under the pattern group. The feature we want to create the pattern of is going to be this first dimple we created. Now the axis we want that to go around. Let me open up the origin that is opened already. And so let's see, we want to move this way. That is more like in the clockwise direction. So the axis we can go around can be the Z axis. Let's see the Z axis. There we have it here. So I'll select that. Straight away we can see the preview, the first one, the second one, the third one. We would have 6 of them here because it says 6 occurrences, but that's not what we want. We want just 2, and so I'll change this to 2. But the angle is what I was talking about. We want to do an angle of 15 degrees rather, instead of the 360 we had here. But we have this first preview on the left side here. We want it to be on our right side, and so we will use this option here that says flip. There we have our first pattern, and so we will hit OK. We will do same for the one that will be at the 30 degrees. Circular pattern again. We want to circular pattern this feature. Now the axis we want that to go around is going to be the Z axis. We want the instances to be 2, and we want to change the angle to 30 degrees. We would also flip that and hit OK. We'll do again into circular pattern. The feature is going to be this one. The rotational axis is the Z axis. We want the placement occurrence count to be 2, and the angle of that is 15 degrees increment. And so since we did 30, we will do 45 this time and flip that around. Let's OK. We'll do the next one. The feature is this first dimple we made. The rotational axis is going to be the Z axis. The occurrence count will be 2. The angle is going to be at 60 degrees. Let me flip that around and hit OK. The next one, circular pattern. We will select the feature. We will select the rotational axis. We choose the count we want and the angle of that occurrence, which is going to be 75. Let's flip that around and hit OK. And the last one, we would select the feature. We would also pick the rotational axis, which would be the z-axis. The occurrence count to the angle now will be 90 degrees. Let's flip that around and OK. So like I mentioned, now we want to circular pattern these individual dimples around. They would all have different occurrences. That's why we had to pattern them individually. Now let's see, we'll pick the circular pattern command. Now the feature we want to pattern is going to be the second one. When you select it, it would select the first one in addition because it is a circular pattern of that. So don't be so alarmed. This time the rotational axis we want to go around, we would be going this way, which means we would be going around the y-axis. So for the rotational axis, I would select the y-axis. Straight away we see our previews. The first one is going to be of 6 occurrences, which is the default one, and so we would maintain that. And we want that to go around at an angle of 360 degrees. So the preview looks fine. Now we can hit OK. We'll do the second one and two circular pattern. The rotational axis. First of all, let's pick the feature we want to circular pattern. It's going to be this third dimple we pattern this way. The rotational axis is going to be the y-axis. The occurrences, let me do 12 and see. We would be freestyling at this point. What I mean by that is for the occurrences, we'll just do what works for our golf ball. 12 I think is fine until we will hit OK. Now let's circular pattern again. We will pick the fourth dimple. Now the rotational axis, it is going to be the y-axis. The occurrences, let's do 20. No, let me do 18 and see how that looks. I think 18 is fine. I would OK. Circular pattern again. I'm going to pick this one. Now for the rotational axis, it's going to be the y-axis. The occurrences, I'll do 21. That looks fine, and so I would OK. We would do again circular pattern. This time we would pick this dimple. The rotational axis is going to be the y-axis. The occurrences, we can do 24. That looks fine. Let's OK. And then lastly, circular pattern. The feature is going to be this half dimple, the rotational axis, the y-axis. The occurrences, we can do 27 or even 26. I think 26 works. Let's hit OK. Let's see what we've done. Great. Now we have half of the golf ball. We can use the mirror command to get the other half. Let's pick that here under the pattern group. I'll select the mirror command. The feature we want to mirror the first revolution. Hold down the shift key and select the last feature you have. It is going to select everything in between. And so select the revolution one. I'm going over it again. Hold down the shift key and select the last circular pattern you did. It is going to select everything in between. Now the plane we want that to be mirrored across is going to be the XZ plane until we can see the preview of that and hit OK. This will take a little bit of time depending on the quality of your machine because we have a lot of features we are creating the mirror copies of. Great, and so there we have our golf ball. Let's apply a final detailing. We would use the fillet command for that and to fillet. The fillet radius we want to do can be 0.75. Let's just click and drag over the entire model, would apply the fillet to all edges we have there. That is going to be about 190 edges. Let's hit OK. Give this a little bit of time. Now that is done. Let's do the final detail. Now let's change the appearance of this into drop down the default option here. We want to change this to white color. We can use the PTE or PTE. I'm not too sure what that is, but I'll look for that here is PTFE rather. Let me select that. And once we go into our view and change the effect to realistic, we get a more realistic look. We can also add a shadow, we can add a reflection, and we can add a ground plane also. You can also change the lighting effect you have here to photo booth. This looks more realistic. Okay, and so that is going to be it for this tutorial. I hope you find this helpful. If you do and if you try it, kindly let me know by sharing it via my email, or you can even let me know through the comment section. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, or contributions, you can also leave it in the comment section below. Don't forget to share this with your CAD friends and save this. If you haven't subscribed yet, do well to subscribe. I'll see you soon in the next tutorial. Bye.